Theron, who I'm sure needs no introduction anymore at this conference. She's been up here quite a bit. Lynn has been practicing appearance medicine since '98 and is a fellow of the appearance Medicine College and is in fact on the executive. And she also works at Auckland Hospital Emergency Department. And I would also like to welcome Hazel Owen, who will be speaking as well, who is an education consultant and director of Ethos Consultancy New Zealand, with an interest in all aspects of ICT enhanced learning and teaching, and especially when underpinned by social learning and communities of practice. Hazel is keen to develop creative ways of supporting and empowering trainees and to foster culturally responsive professional learning within contextualized approaches. So welcome to both of them, and we look forward to a presentation.
Hi, now I've got exactly 2 minutes to say what I've got to say, so Hazel, let's get cracking. We decided to use the word blended learning program instead of just the distant learning program. So NZCAM is dedicated to the education of its trainees and of its fellows. And the original diploma program which we have been running was covering all the following topics, which you can see up on the slide, and I'm not going to go into all of them because you know them: temporal dermal fillers, lasers, radio frequency platelet-rich plasma, etc. And it was done in a modular basis. The whole program runs on a mentoring program akin with hands-on workshops, which are run at Auckland on a monthly basis. So we knew we had our basics, but then we sort of thought to ourselves, we had some of our trainees say, look, it's really difficult to always come to Auckland, there's time restraints, etc. And so some of these following concepts came into our minds, and these were largely because of thinking a little bit further than what our program was actually providing to our trainees. These were things like how to do case discussion, mentoring, how to foster the mentoring relationship, to develop a professional learning community so that we can all communicate very easily with each other. Logbooks, how to actually do those in a non-paper form, decreasing the travel distance and the travel cost for people, accessibility to all people all over New Zealand, potentially Australia, potentially international. The use of video library, which we had no access to at this point in time, and also time and cost effectiveness for all of us in our very busy schedules. And it was with these multiple questions that we then approached Hazel. Thank you, Hazel.
Thank you very much, Lynn. And I did threaten to push her off the stage if she spoke for more than 2 minutes, so thank you. Okay, so sort of thinking from the NZCAM point of view, blended learning, I'm just going to take a little step back and think of blended learning in a more general sense. I'm going to talk just very briefly about some of the research that informs the design of blended learning, but not too much because I understand it was conference dinner last night. And I'll just give you a moment to read this slide. And the thing that I think jumps out from this is that blended learning can actually improve the effectiveness of the learning for your trainees. So yes, it does cost to put together a blended learning program, but the benefits are that your trainees get a better deal out of it and you end up with better fellows. This diagram, any well-designed learning program will kind of have the central factors here. The reason I put this diagram up though is you'll see all around the edge there's sort of your technical tools, your Web 2 tools, and a lot of these have opened up the potential for people to work together no matter where in the world you are, and to also access learning at 3 o'clock in the morning if they really want to. Stepping further back, looking at Vygotsky and sociocultural theory, and later Vetch, who adapted that and took it a few steps further. The whole notion of human development, context and cognition, pretty much, they're one and the same, they go hand in hand. So when you're designing learning, making sure that you have some aspects that allow for social learning. Yes, you'll want to sit and cram in as an individual to learn sort of things for an assessment or exam, but most of the real meaningful learning happens when people are learning together. So what does that look like for NZCAM? As Lynn said, you've got a modular type course, and this is relatively sort of, so this is your modules. These areas are for your social learning and for people to start to build a community of practice and a bit of a network. Boiled down a little bit further and a little bit more accessible, you'll see aspects here, again looking at not just the content but the building of relationships. And if we go to this next one, personalised learning. There was some research done by Langer and Rodin in 1976, and it sounds a little bit off topic, but bear with me on this one. They worked with old folk in a home. They split them into two groups. One group had choice, group one had choice as to how their room was laid out, and they also got to choose which plants they wanted to care for. Group two, the decisions were made for them. Within weeks, in a specially designed well-being tool, the group one already showed a high sense of well-being, whereas group two really didn't. And 18 months later, the researchers were quite shocked, because in group one, the death rate was only 15%, in group two, it was 30%. Now, I'm not sort of saying that your trainees are likely to face an early demise, but thinking about well-being and how that links to motivation and completion, success, retention, those types of aspects have a big influence on how you design and deliver a learning program. So, what might it look like? Thinking specifically back to the NZCAM blended learning course, what I'd like to talk about here, I'm going to talk about two things. One are things that we've already trialled, so there's kind of a phase one that we've already tried some things, and a phase two. It's a little bit back to front, but this is a mock-up of the Moodle course that we're going to be using, Learning Management System. It's online, accessible from anywhere in the world. At the moment, it is still a mock-up, so this is phase two. Now, some of the things that I just wanted to point out here is, you'll see here, if there were a lot of trainees online, I could actually see who else was online at the same time, which means I can chat with them. And I can remember I did some learning, distance learning, and I was in Dubai, and some of my colleagues were in New Zealand. It's 3 o'clock in the morning, there was this assignment, and it was like, what on earth am I supposed to be doing for this assignment? And it was just really positive to see one of my colleagues online, it wasn't 3 o'clock in the morning in New Zealand, and just be able to touch base with them and kind of go, so how are you dealing with this? And it was a real positive moment there. Obviously you've got your content, but you've also got that sense of building the community building here, and that mind map from earlier, all of those aspects are represented by the buttons that you have here. And this is one of the aspects that we have already trialled, and this is web conferencing. This is a tool called Adobe Connect. And if I could just ask you to zoom in on that one for me, please. Thank you very much. Okay, so Adobe Connect, at the moment it's been trialled in workshops, and with some good feedback from fellows. We've learned a couple of things. One of the things is it's great to have somebody to drive the laptop, so you need an extra person. But it also would mean that trainees could log in from anywhere in the world, ask questions. It could be either audio or chat. And one of the things that we would like to trial maybe later is having a back channel, which sounds maybe a little bit risque, but a back channel is where you might have chat happening in the background around what is being presented or what is being spoken about. This has two benefits. One is that peers can answer each other's questions, but it also means that the presenter can kind of see, they didn't kind of get that point, so I need to cover that a little bit more. Or if specific questions come up, they can refer to them. Within this environment also, you can either have the presentation going through, but you can also have an interactive whiteboard, so you can get people working together at the same time in the environment. You can also have you've got the ability for everybody's face to be up there, so really useful early on if you've not had a face-to-face event first. And you can have things like hyperlinks out to different resources. Another thing that Lynn mentioned was building a repository of videos. And one of the reasons that I'm showing this is the videos can be embedded in Moodle. So you've got thinking about learning preferences. Some people might like to read, some people might like to watch the videos, some people listen to a podcast in the car on the way to work. With something like Moodle, you can provide all three. So thinking about that notion of choice, that could be built into the design of the program. And what I'd like to do is just show you, we've already taken some footage of a couple of the training sessions with Lynn and Joanna. So what I'd like to do is just give you a couple of minutes of one and then another video, just to give you a taste of the types of learning that can go on through the multimedia.
So we're going to go in here and relax. Pulls right out here. Now I would not inject a sport that far out. Do you know how with Botox you can go very far lateral? I personally wouldn't do that with Dysport. I stay much more medial, but that's my style, okay? And I've not had ptosis ever, okay? So, and I would put 0.05, which is going to be 7 units, because her muscle isn't that strong, okay? So and it would be 3 Botox units, okay? Because it's not, look at that, it's not that strong. So I would use 3, so that's 7 units, 7 units, 7 units, and over, just over there, and over there, very superficial. That's your serum, that's your red blood cells, and that's the agar. So, and that's your platelets. So that's your platelet-rich plasma. Now, they speak about this part being the richest and the bit at the top being the poorest. And NZCAM say that you should inject only this part, and this top bit you massage in. Guess what we do?
Use all of it.
Yes. Because why would you not use everything that you've got? Why would you massage it on something that doesn't get into the skin? So we use the entire amount, and that's kind of. So now what I do.
And Lynn's right. Majority of clinics is exactly what they do. Is use absolutely every last.
Because it also makes it more tricky to get off and on and. So now the important thing is you do not want to go into the agar because you don't want to get any of that in your tumor syringe. So I'll pop it down.
So a couple of really neat things from the videos. You can see how a trainee could access these videos. They can play them again and again and again, pause, go back, listen. And the other really neat thing is, if you watch the whole video, there's a lot of interaction and really great questions from the people who are participating in these sessions. So you're kind of modelling some of that inquisitiveness, but also some of the questions that you might want to ask whilst treating a patient or working with a patient. So the multimedia can be incredibly powerful. Okay, I'm really aware that I've only got 2 minutes. Now, I know this isn't appearance medicine, but something that could be considered in the future. This isn't phase 1 or phase 2, but it could be something well in the future. Things like demonstrating specific techniques through, for example, flash programs. You can mix up multimedia and animations and stills and take somebody through a whole process. And again, it's that accessibility and the fact that you can pause and watch it as many times as you want. For the future, again, e-portfolios. This presentation is available online, should you be interested. And within the presentation itself, there's a couple of little videos and things like that that explain a bit more about some of these areas. Now, I'm just going to flick through a couple here. Now, if you think of the two, there's about 6 different types of e-portfolio. The two that would be most relevant for NZCAM is the developmental and the showcase. Now, developmental, if you think of your e-portfolio as backstage, this is where you've got projects half finished, you're trialling things, you're trying different techniques, and your front stage, your showcase, is once you've mastered something, and this is maybe as part of a continuing professional learning and development e-portfolio, but also if you want to show what you can do for clients. And just sort of thinking again about multimedia, so we've looked at NZCAM developing multimedia. Now what happens if you then take that a step further and your trainees start taking videos of themselves doing injecting? And I can remember when I've been doing horse training and somebody's been telling me, yeah, you just got to do this, shift the weight onto your right hip, no. I'm going, yeah, I'm doing that. Now somebody then takes a video and I instantly see that I'm not doing what they're saying I should be doing, but I'm doing something quite different. So the power of seeing yourself doing something, it can be really positive. And you can then also get peers to critique what you're doing and maybe make suggestions around different ways of doing things. So, I think I'm within time. So, thank you very much for listening. It has been a whistle-stop tour. But if you have any questions, you can either, I think we've got about a minute now if you want to ask them now, or you can always email myself and Lynn.